Cabo. I am Iwa Liwa, John Babamelo. Welcome you to Orisa Discussions with my guests, Ifa Bemiro, Fabi Alabi.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome. The Orisa Discussions. Here is where we bring a conversational conversational perception of the Orisa tradition for new members as well as enthusiasts or who are interested in becoming part of the tradition. We try to open the mindset of people that they will have an understanding of the basic concepts of the tradition of Orisa.
Okay. So basically you're saying for people who probably will be visiting a shrine, for whether it's for a feast, a festival, or a different type of activity, what they are supposed to expect. That is what we're basically going to talk about.
Then in that perspective, as well as those who see in the tradition as well as want to understand it.
All right, okay.
So sometimes we look from outside and not understand what is taking place inside.
All right. Well, I guess that would make me a good guest on your show because I'm relatively new to the tradition because I've only been involved in the tradition for the last 4 years. So I would start off first by asking you this question. If I was to be a visitor coming to a shrine, right? What am I required to do? Is it necessary for me to dress a certain way to visit a shrine?
Well, in Trinidad, it's not mandatory in terms of dress wear, but it is practically traditional respect. There's no mandatory outline as to attirement or entry into the tradition.
Okay.
But as we become more established, people now trying to outline specific traditional wear.
Okay. So in my case, let me say I don't have no set of African clothes. What would be considered appropriate? Would it be just it must be designed in African clothes, or is it something to with colors too? Are you required to wear particular colors? Are you required to wear African clothes specifically? Or loose fitting clothes or tight fitting clothes? I don't know. Because, nowadays people go to religious ceremonies dressed any kind of a how.
Well, I'll put it in a local Trinidad Orisa settings where the attirement is just a formal where you basically cover your knees as for female, proper shirts and pants for male. But as the development becomes more into the understanding tradition, now people will specify colors because now people understand the concept of taboos.
Okay. Well, then you will have to explain that because you might be thinking, I know what is a taboo. And yeah, you know what? To be honest, I do know what a taboo is. But for a person who would be now coming for the first time, who don't know nothing about the tradition, explain to me what is a taboo.
So in taboo, in the sense, there may be a particular color that may bring negative energies within a shrine or a place of worship.
Okay.
So it is identified as taboo, which is things we should not practice.
Okay.
So by one respecting the taboo, they may say, do not wear black or do not wear tie-dye colors into the temple.
All right, okay.
So because it will be what is identified as a negative energy to the development of the shrine itself. So the person who enter in will know I'm giving the respect by not bringing negativity into the space.
Okay, all right. So, but now you mentioned coming into the space. So now that even brings a further question now in my mind, right? Let's say, again, for the first time, I'm visiting your shrine. Is there some sort of a salutation that I am required to give, or could I just walk in the shrine and come straight in and sit down in the activity? How that is work?
Well, the correct way is when you enter a space, you greet the elders.
Okay.
If you are part of the tradition, you use some of the traditional greetings. Some use alafia, some use ekaro or ekabo, some may use the Ifa tradition as aburaboye.
Okay.
If you're one who not into the tradition, it is expected that you should give greetings to the elder of the place, and then you give normal greetings to everybody as present evening or afternoon to everybody.
All right. One of the keys now, if I visit, I would know who's the elder, right? But is there some sort of to help somebody you really genuinely don't know, is there some sort of a marker if you walk into a space that you would be able to identify and say, okay, this is the head of the shrine, or I would not know who is the person in charge. I mean, common sense would tell you, if you use the term elders, which I think is the term you use, you would know that these would be mostly older people, mostly the senior people who present at the event. But is there any distinguishing mark that would separate the head from a shrine, the elders, the chiefs, that from the time I see them I can tell, well, okay, you know what, he might be the head of the shrine, or this person might be a priest, or what's the title that is used for priest?
And in Orisa, they call it Mukba.
Locally.
So in the tradition itself, the priest will be the Babal Orisha or Iyal Orisha.
Okay.
If it's ruled by will be some houses will have both Babal Orisha and Iyal Orisha. Some houses is run by a Babal Orisha.
Okay. So how would I know
Well,
the person in charge from the Babal Orisha, from the Mongba, from whoever who is who? How would I? Is there anything I could look for that would help me know, look, I should go to them first and greet before I go to anybody else?
As we have a discussion, I have to put this discussion in both sense as to what is presently and what should be.
All right.
So
okay.
presently, it is most time if the person who is the head of the shrine or the head of the temple, a new person most time will enter with a guest. So expected that the guest will identify, well, this is the Baba of the shrine or the ear of the shrine.
Okay.
In terms of, in progressive temples, they will either have nameplates as to their titleship as well as their position in seating.
Okay, so you're saying
them sitting at the head of.
All right, so basically you come in and then you would observe, well, certain people, dignitaries are sitting in certain places, so you will know right away, these is the officials. These are the leaders, these are the chief, the head of shrine. All right, now you mentioned if you're coming with somebody, right? So, I mean, I asked like if I didn't come in with somebody, but you say I come in with somebody. So let me say you're coming now for the first time and you're coming with somebody. You say you could just walk through the gate and come right, everybody is and sit down, or is there some places that you have to honor and pay respect to before you could proceed to going in and even greeting anybody else in the space?
Well, for the unlearned, it has to be guided by somebody who's learned. But to the learned in the entire space, they would identify there would be a particular stool, which we call or grove for issue, which will be as to the gatekeeper. So the colors may be red and black, red and white, or red and white and black, or then red. But there will be a particular stone at the entrance, which is greeted before one enters into a space.
All right. I sorry to interrupt you, right? But
I'm
a little bit confused, right? Because you use some terms I don't know. You say when you come in, there is a stool or there is a certain space. So you have to kind of explain that, break that down for a person.
So this is why we say as in discussions, one who is aware will operate as one who's not aware. One who's not aware basically will be directed or guided by somebody who is aware as what, because most time you'll be welcomed into your compound by somebody who's a member there.
Okay.
So one really don't walk in.
Okay.
In a controlled environment.
So you can't just alright, so then you're telling me if I pass in and I hear the drum, it's not wise that I just try and walk up inside the place to go and see what's going on. To be fast now, you know tuning state.
But this is why, as we say, discussion, we have to look at what is basically the reality of some experiences, because some people they just end up walking into a space and then they become part of it.
Okay.
As well some.
So in other words, everybody welcome, whether you're invited, whether you're uninvited. Welcome. But then now you see, now you only making me ask all kind of questions.
Yeah, well, discussions. Discussions is where
all right.
A lecture.
Yeah, firstly, although I say I might pass and hear the drum and I'll be curious and might want to walk into that space, right? But generally, the people in Trinidad have a certain type of perception about people who practice that kind of African business. So, should it be that I should be afraid to enter into one of these spaces because, you mentioned that there are so many things, and then the best thing to do is to come in with somebody who knows. Right? But what if I just curious and I just want to walk up? Is there something you could tell me that I should know or that I should do before I even attempt to walk up? Because now you mentioned issue, right? As a space or a particular sacred object. You use the word stool, right? Because I wanted to explain that. Because the average person could think a stool is something you just sit down on. So when you say you have to go to visit the stool before you go and greet other people, you go have to kind of clarify that, because if I say I know what a stool is, I will be telling that untruth. So I wouldn't say that, but for the clarification of people who listening, try to make it as simple as you could and explain to them, and to me too, maybe for purposes of clarity, what is a stool?
Right. When you use the term stool, a stool represents what called a sacred grove. The reference of stool means this is where an Orisha sits.
Okay.
So you may see a stone or a pot, a clay pot, or you may have a figurine, but that is saying this is where this particular Orisha, which is the energies of the Orisha tradition, sits, or this is the sacred space in which you connect with them at that point.
Right. So therefore you're saying now, like, that is a sacred space that recognizes a particular energy.
A particular energy.
Alright.
But in stool, this is where this energy sits.
Alright, so that is why they call it a stool.
Yeah. So you go to greet it at that point. It's come as you're greeting the father in the house while he's sitting.
Alright, so that is like if you go into a castle to visit a king.
King sits.
The king sits on his throne, which just happens to be a really big, nice stool. And you have to go and you have to pay your respects to him before you pay respects to anybody else. In this case, you're talking about an energy by the name of Eshu. Alright, so therefore now you know is the next question, right? It's an obvious question. What or who is this Eshu that I had to forego greeting the elders and go to this thing first, or this energy first, or this stool, which is the word you use, first to pay my respect? Why do I have to do that?
Alright. In the Orisha Pantheon, Eshu represents the gatekeeper or the guardian of the spaces. So they would have an Eshu who guards the village, Eshu guards the house, Eshu guards the town, Eshu guards the temple. So Eshu, which also is the divine messenger of the Rishas, or the spirits of God, and the God himself, Olodumare, as we identified. He is the divine messenger who carries the message. So in greeting him, he also...
So wait. You see now you're making me wonder now, because you know, this starting to sound like something I was taught in growing up, that there is an intermediary between God and man. So are you telling me in African tradition there is also an intermediary?
Well, not going against other traditions, but if we take Jesus, spell Jesus, J-E-S-U-S, and remove the J, and remove the last S, in the middle you'll get Eshu.
Yeah, but why you going to need to move the people J and the people S and all this business?
Why I say remove? Because if we go to historical history, the concept of Eshu or the concept of a divine messengers was even before the Christian era even began, even the historical rise of the creation.
But I don't know, I feel it tricking me, because I read something somewhere, right? And in that thing it was explaining that the letter J wasn't always in the English alphabet. That 400 and something years ago, they created this J. So in reality, if I don't know if what I read is wrong, but basically what it's saying, if it was more than 400 years ago, it would not have no Jesus, it would have been Eshu's. E-S-U and S at the end.
So I'll ask you a question. How much years you said that they created the J?
400 and something. Might be just around the time we come here as slave, or just before that,
so
prior to that.
If I were to tell you that the Yoruba tradition, even the son of Eshu, as to our period now, checking years, we are 10,062 years already in historical almanac history.
Okay, so you said...
Recorded history.
Wait. Now you see...
So
you're making this thing harder. So what you're telling me is that long before Christianity, long before the existence of any savior in the world named Jesus and all this business, that these people who primitive and backward and all the negative things that is said had an intermediary, had a messenger that used to go between man and God.
Always had.
Wow. Okay, well, this is a great thing. So you're saying there was no J, so it was ESUS, and then they teach you about singular and plural.
Singular and plural.
So it had more than one issue.
It had more than one
But we
issue.
could also say issue and drop the last S, which is ESU.
Right.
Alright,
Now,
okay.
Now,
Very
when
interesting.
we separate it, we identifying. Remember, our history is always shaded and covered into something. When we look at what we call syncretism, what we would have used to syncretize and connect something project to our identity.
Our tradition.
Our tradition or our culture. Also, there will have the syncretism where other people will cover your story and give you back a story.
So wait. You see, I never hear it put so. So I had to ask you. So then what you're saying is that within the work of the syncretism, they use symbolism to represent something else.
Represent something.
So then what you're saying is that when the African people come here, is it that they had to camouflage their practice and use the appearance of Christianity? Is that what you're saying?
Well, that in terms of the traditionalists using the science of syncretism for their cultural survival. But there would also be where others will take their culture and cover over the African tradition. So when you look at the same story, you're saying the African is bad and the Christian is good. Not knocking Christianity or any religion, but remember, political survival.
But you're even confusing me further, because if the thing was existing all the time before slavery and all the time before European people even know about Africa, and Africans were brought here and they were exposed to Christianity, then I have a question that maybe you might have never heard somebody ask, because I have a kind of mind that has worked like that, right? So are you saying that it is possible, or that is a reality, that it is possible that these Europeans could have taken African tradition, twist it around, and give it to the slave?
Exactly.
So then, therefore, now it would be that, is it possible then, my further question is, that the slaves now could have uncovered the cloak of Christianity and discover the similarities between what they worship in Africa and what is presented to them as Christianity?
Exactly. Because if we look at the historical trends, we in the West are the ones that are disconnected from the tradition.
Okay.
So we are the one who had to deal with the syncretism. If you go back into the homeland, you realize that in all the ancient tradition, they always had a messenger to the deity. They always had a creator. They always had different energies that will govern the elements, or what we will say Orisa in one tradition, they will call them Lai in Voodoo. So each tradition will have an identity, but if you go back to the source, they are connected. They have no syncretism. In the West, we had was to syncretize because beyond the slavery, colonialism, and all the problems, we had to have a way of surviving, keeping the
preserving our tradition,
preserving the tradition, but still having to live in alignment with the society that we are structured to live in.
And we are forced to live in.
All
right, okay. So now, you see, you making some serious statements there, and it's something that really I never really think about. So I might have to spend some time thinking about it. But because the program is only a short time, it's only about so much questions I could ask. But I still want to at least ask this question. Why is it, right, that so many of our people who understand that slavery existed and understand that the religions that we have today, the modern religions, were forced upon us, slavery has come to an end, and so many of our people hold on still, even though you're free, hold on to an aspect of the past that was not very pleasant and still want to live and practice that same style of life that we had under slavery. How could that be explained? How could that be justified?
Well, I'll use the famous quote from Bob Marley. Emancipate yourself from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our mind. When we are using the indoctrinations that indoctrinated us into slavery as the means in which to bring us out of slavery, we will always be just stuck in the mud, thinking we are free, and we are not. As an African saying, be careful if you wake up a slave that is sleeping because he might be dreaming about freedom. But you are waking
you had to repeat that one. I feel I missed something.
Be careful you wake a slave to tell him you're free because he might be dreaming about freedom. It is saying,
in other words, he ain't wake up then. He's still sleeping and he think he dreaming.
His dream of what is freedom is not the reality of his freedom.
Okay.
So we are liberated, but we are liberated from a system, but we are still in the system, but just another name.
Okay, so in other words, what you're telling me then, colonialism still going on then?
Colonialism still going. And even in Africa, colonialism, they're trying to colonize Africans by Africans right now. We has not colonized ourselves because even in our independence, because we are a republic, we still are controlled by those who were the imperialists that enslaved us.
All right, well, I think I wanted to be a devil advocate now and ask you, well, how you could say that? The Prime Minister of Trinidad is a black man. The President of Trinidad is a black woman. The leader of the opposition is East Indian. Now, these is not white people. So how you could tell me that we still being ruled and run by the colonial powers?
Well, I'll take it at different levels.
All right.
As traditionalists, if our traditional leaders has not liberated themselves from the mental slavery that they are in, they cannot liberate their followers. Just as the political electorates that are there has not liberated themselves, they can't liberate society. So if we have to adjust our lifestyle and put our laws and precepts to be accepted by either the European Union or the United States or a foreign entity, that we could think we need their money to survive.
So, in other words, so you're saying we are economic slaves. I want to be sure what you're telling me.
Well, the economic slave has allowed us to also be cultural slaves. Now, if a liberator or a colonialist freed you and you start to dress as the colonialist, you wear the same tie, you wear the jacket, you want to live in the same conceptual life as the colonializer. All you did is just change your position, but not the mental thinking.
No, well, I want to be sure what you're really telling me. But afraid to ask that.
No,
we ain't being political.
No, not political.
I just want to know, as an Ifa Orisha novice, as a first timer, as somebody coming in, what to expect and whatever. But people have all these things that they have been saying about people who practice this tradition. Right? Now, for the 4 years that I've been in, I discover for myself all them things people that be saying is false, right? But for the people who don't know, I would like you to sort of break it down for them in a simple way that they would know that there's nothing for them to fear. Right? If I come inside a day, some kind of power will take man, I will be running and beating up and all kind of all kind of things will happen to me.
You're going back into the perceptions or perceptions people have. Now, when you come to tradition, firstly, being correctly directed, the first thing this is a means of empowering yourself.
Okay. So wait. No, but you see?
Wait. Move from the perception.
Okay,
right?
But what you mean empowering yourself? Because I've heard two things, right? For the 4 years I've been in, there are two main things that I've always heard being drummed in to the adherents of the tradition. And one was something called Iwapile, which is the development of a good, noble, and balanced character, which to me means in regular English, self-improvement. And another thing they've been drumming in for the period of time that I've been involved is the importance of understanding your purpose. The words that is used is called destiny. Right?
Yeah.
Tell me, are these the things you're talking about? Because most people feel it's obia.
Well,
whatever that is.
Well,
I don't even know what I mean.
Well, that is what we are saying. But I'm taking it from the first level. First, you have to know self. When understanding self, that's where we use a referral of Ori, which is really mean your head or your higher self, your higher consciousness.
Okay.
Once you become
so wait, now all leaders teach that too?
Yeah, well, we say
okay.
awakening your third eye. We call Iwaju, which is your third eye, your higher consciousness. But then once you begin to awaken your consciousness, now you can start to look to develop your character.
Okay.
Because if you don't understand you will be just following the teacher's character.
Alright, you see now you're confusing. You say Iwaju. You say Tudai. You say Ori. Right? And you talk about getting that in order first. And then developing your character. That's the only, you had to get that together first, and then after that you could start working towards self-development or developing a good, noble and balanced character.
Because man, that is important. Your character is balanced with your nature, with your consciousness.
Okay.
Now that way we go back into freedom and liberation. Are we free? If I'm not free within my own conscious self, wherever society carry me, I think I'm being a good and humble, noble character person by following what society says.
By being a good person.
Well,
that was what I say. He's a good boy, man.
A good citizen.
Yeah. Alright, a
good citizen.
Right, okay.
We follow the social rules. Even if the social rules goes against my development.
Okay.
So that way we say, well, we think we are free, but we are not free.
Alright. Now, you mentioned Ori. You mentioned development of good character. Now explain to me this thing that they just talk about destiny. So I read in you let's get by a tarot person. Where's destiny? How you will know your destiny? You can't. God alone know your destiny.
Well,
this is at least this what it is teaching.
Well, I'll carry you back to Ori.
Okay.
For your Ori to develop itself, coming into now we put it in perspective. One coming into the worship or community practice of Orisha. You have to be guided by the priest or the priestess. Or we say Babla Orisha or Yellow Orisha.
Okay.
There's a ceremony where you call Ibori, which is putting your Ori in alignment.
Ibori?
Right. So you have
Ibori?
Right.
But I ain't sounding like English.
No, well, in terms of, that was it. Putting your consciousness in alignment. So remember you talk about Iwaju. Getting into your higher self. Your higher self do not just sway into activities.
Okay.
So you're being guided as to reaching that understanding.
So in other words, you have to go to a person with a particular kind of knowledge to guide you towards bringing that in alignment.
So that I say, when coming into the shrine, it's expected that you want to be part of the tradition. This is where the priest or priestess is supposed to guide you.
But then I don't know. That's sounding like something I hear about long time, right? Because I was watching some YouTube videos now, and you know they pick up plenty things, but sometimes you pick up the wrong thing too, eh? But that ain't not. But anyway, I was watching this video with this old Orisha lady, right? And I think it was Tony Hall was interviewing she, and he was asking she about the rituals and different things let's do, right? And she mentioned two words. I think it was Singbari, that one of the words she mentioned, and well, I ain't sure, but I think I might be picked this up somewhere, right? She used the word dusone, which has something to do with getting the head in order. I want to know if it relates to that same Ori business you talking about, or Ibori.
It is the same, but in terms of her referral to the ritual, it'll be dependent if the understanding came from either voodoo or they had.
Yeah, but you using a dirty word there. Voodoo, you just say?
No, voodoo basically is a culture, is a people.
Alright.
The ritual that some may practice that they may call voodoo, basically most times on what you get on television, is not the real essence of what is voodoo or voodoo.
So wait,
Which
wait.
come from the
So
Cameroons or
wait.
Yeah.
So you're telling me all them movie where they see with zombie coming out of grave and walking with a hand in front. So you're trying to tell me that ain't voodoo?
No. But that is their perception of what voodoo.
So wait. So you're telling me Hollywood had their
Hollywood
own
had-
understanding.
Hollywood had their own, or they had their own projections. So remember when we see our tradition portrayed in movies, remember it is based on commercialism. Nobody would pay money for right thinking movies. When I put it this way, the movies that will project elevation or greater thought is those that are least funded.
Wait. So wait.
I just
I want
get
to be
back to
sure.
voodoo.
I want to be
Yeah.
sure. So basically, what you're telling me is when you put on the TV, you want to laugh, you want to be frightened, you want
Yeah.
entertainment.
Yeah, so they had to put things to entertain you. So they wouldn't want that if they talk about your reason are there, that they really mean the energies of an ancestor will be what will go to attack you. So they have to put some dead man walking around to come and strangle you or kidnap you.
So then that's their own
So
understanding or their own
or-
corruption of African
Yeah.
tradition.
So in terms of the commercialization term for economic growth.
So in other words, if I go into a Ile or a temple or a, what is it called? What is the other names of that?
Well, Pali,
Right.
shrines.
I ain't gonna see nobody walking so like a zombie.
No,
I ain't gonna see nobody attacking me.
no.
Right, but I don't know. I
So,
don't know what else to ask. I think I asked all the questions.
But in terms of what as how our discussion has went, it's just basically that one who's coming into the tradition, basically we have to understand that it is not fully about the rituals and the ceremony, but it's about your personal development.
Okay.
Even the rituals, when they manifest to help you out of your situation in life.
Alright.
They ain't come there to be glorified and elevated, although that is the
Okay.
way
Well, then
people
you see, you're
see it
saying
as.
things. So I have one more.
Mhm.
There's just one more because
Yeah.
I know we're running out of time. All right. You say that the Orisha has come to elevate you. So the Orisha is not a god. I mean, I trying to. What is a
No.
Orisha?
Right.
That really what I mean.
The
To
Western concept or misconception of Orisha, they say they are gods. But Orishas are manifestation of the elemental energies. They are the servants of the Creator.
Okay.
So it comes as
So then they're
if
not
you take
god.
if you take it in biblical or
Okay.
Western concept, they are like angels of God.
Also, Orishas is like angels.
The angels of God. So their role is to give assistance to man. Give assistance to the world itself. They are to take care of the world and those things that are in it.
So all right,
So
all
that
right,
is
all
their
right.
role.
No, I want to be clear. So like when, well, you know, I had to use the Christian before.
We all
Right.
indoctrinated.
When Abraham and his wife Sarah was in the tent, right? An angel that come and visit them. So in the same way that angels used to visit the prophets in the Old Testament, you telling me now, the energies of the Orisha that visit people in the valley.
Exactly. This is what we term as manifestation. Now, when we read it liturgically in the scriptures, and the Spirit of God came and talked to Mary, or came and talked to Abraham, or sat and talked with Joseph, or talked with this one, it is a manifestation that they are referring to on
Another
manifest, not a human. That is, even when the Christ, they said, when Christ beat the people at the market, and he ran them out, and he threw over the tables for the gamble and said, you should not gamble or thief in my Father's house, or in the kingdom of God, whatever. If people read further down the line, they say when the Christ left Jesus, he had was to flee.
Wait. So what you're trying to tell me is a manifestation the man had?
Now when I say Jesus the Christ, really means Jesus that carries the spirit of the Christ. So Jesus really is the man, but his manifestation is coming Christ. So
Alright,
one
okay.
who would manifest Oshun will carry the energy of love. One who manifests Yemanja, the energy of a nurturing mother.
Okay.
One carrying the energy of Ogun will be an energy of warriorship.
So all right. So I just want to be sure.
Yeah.
So we saying Oshun is not a god.
No.
We saying Yemanja is not a god. We saying Shango is not a god. We saying Ogun is not a god.
Well, we are in the internal, we put that as a newcomer level, because newcomer level you have to understand basically these are the energies that will be interacting with us on the earth plane, and you have to understand they are not gods, but they are messengers of God, both for the elevation of man and the world that man exists.
Well,
now,
yeah, nah, boy.
to take the next level, we talk about Imole.
Boy.
But
Yeah, I feel
that next discussion.
Yeah, I feel like enough for one session. So
discussion.
I think we really need to close off. Thank you for having me on your program. You clarified quite a lot of things for me, and I'm sure for viewers they might have a better understanding of some of the basics.
So that is what it is about. Unless we change the context or the definition when we say oral tradition, which is supposed to be the watchword when we talk about Orisa tradition in Trinidad, and there's no discussion, then they cannot say it is an oral tradition.
Okay.
It is discussion, these discussions that makes the element of Orisa tradition in Trinidad. That is why you very rarely see books or historical facts, because it's the discussion that makes up the root. So I may ask something or you ask something. I may see something, you share something. That is how the tradition builds itself.
Okay.
Because I may know one thing and you know one thing. When I share what I know, you now know two things. When you share what you know, I also will now know two things.
Okay. All right.
That is what they call it as an oral tradition, because it's based on the sharing of ideas
but
and
isn't also the
experiences.
sense of sharing also builds community.
And that is why you always have to meet to share.
All right. Okay.
So thanks for being my guest in Orisa Discussions.
Good to be here, brother.
This is what we need, that we should always come together and have discussions about tradition. That is not always you look into other, or say, research into Facebook and whatever is posted up, but you have a discussion with the people that are exposed in the tradition in your space, because your exposure will be different to those in Nigeria or Brazil or Cuba.
Okay, I will take that. All right, I guess with that we say Odabo.